Hey guys, today I'm taking a look at Metroid Prime. Yeah, this was really interesting because this game was kind of the first time that Metroid again transitioned to the 3D space and it missed a whole console generation. Arguably peaked with Super Metroid on the SNES era, and it completely missed the N64. And it was kind of like a launch title on GameCube, and because of that, graphically, even today, this game is very impressive. It did a lot of things right. It just needed a little bit of time to really incubate. I actually don't know exactly how long they were working on the project, but the results speak for themselves. I know a lot of people have said that this is one of the best games ever made. I think there is a consensus like that out there, and I mean, it's good, but best is a bit much, especially when I prefer Metroid Prime 2. But in any case, Metroid Prime Original. And it's funny that this game, it got remastered recently and looked very, very faithful to its original. So I'm very happy to see that. And of course, to all the people who are experiencing Metroid Prime now for the first time, I'm very happy to see that. I'm a bit, obviously, conflicted because, this is a 20-year-old game at this point, so I'd like something new from Nintendo. But hey, I will take a good remake of a great game. So what is Metroid Prime like? Well, it's interesting that, they were able to transition from a 2D space to a 3D space, and a big part of that is the map, because what a lot of people know Metroid for is kind of backtracking. You'll be in a certain area and you won't have the right material or equipment to open up a certain, chest or box or door or something, and you come back later with that equipment and you find your little secret or something, and that kind of gameplay loop is very iconic Metroid. And in the 2D space, everything was, in profile, and so transforming that into 3D space was really, I think, kind of ambitious and interesting, and, I wasn't, I'm sure they weren't sure exactly how this was going to work, but they really nailed it, I think, on the first try here. You have certain objects that, the doors now have things where you can scan them and figure out what material they're made out of, if they're destructible or not, or if they need a special beam to open. I also would have to say that the map that they created for the 3D space is absolutely amazing. It's one of my favorite, most aesthetically pleasing maps I've ever seen in video games, honestly, because it just looks so nice, and it's very clear. Everything has a orange translucent background, and locked doors, obstacles, everything is very clearly, usually marked on the map. What I also like about this game is that, this is one of the rare times, I guess, Nintendo isn't a first-person shooter, even though I would say the shooting shares as much time as puzzles, if not, more so. What I really like about this game is you have multiple beams you pick up, the wave, ice, and I believe plasma or fire beam or something. And it's really cool how they handle each beam, because each beam has a different kind of property. It has a different kind of technique or style, and a different usage too. For the ice beam will slow down enemies, for example, and things like that. Of course, each beam can also open its respectively colored door, along with missiles and other things like that. One thing that it did really kind of miss from Super Metroid compared to this one is that by the end of the game, if you get all the missile expansions and you have like 255 missiles, some crazy amount, in Super Metroid, it made a lot of sense that would be the case, because the rate at which you could actually shoot missiles or use super missiles was super, super fast, while it's very much capped in this game. And so I think the combat arguably isn't as satisfying as it was in the 2D games. There's also the issue of the whole kind of boost power. Samus in this game does not able to boost, which seems like a pretty iconic aspect of the series. But basically what they replaced it with was the screw attack. So with the screw attack, you were able to kind of, go forward in a aerial space, and it still has that destructive capability, which I thought was really cool and what they were able to pull off. Another really smart thing they did, and it kind of shows you how early, the idea of FPS was at this time. But the GameCube did have a dual stick setup, but the dual stick was actually used to switch between different beams rather than actually aim the camera. In order to do that, you would hold down R and then move the left stick. So it was really treating the R button as kind of a gear shift kind of mechanic, so that the player could then begin to scan around the environment more. And the kind of basic story of Metroid Prime is not very too grand. Basically, there are space pirates. They are experimenting on Metroids again, and they've set up a base on Talon 4, this alien world, which you drop down to, and you basically just uncover the secrets of the world and just explore. And the story doesn't really develop much outside of that. You get some bits and pieces about Samus's past, the fact that she has Chozo armor and what that is, and this whole kind of legacy of Chozo artifacts and stuff like that, and the Chozo kind of temple. Again, this game has a main story you follow, and you go from 3 or 4 different biomes, magma pits, kind of desert-ish kind of areas, ice areas, of course, the space pirate mining operation where they're mining this mysterious element called Phazon, which will become iconic pretty much to the Prime series. Again, everything in this game just looks really nice, even we're 20 years later. I mean, I would recommend either playing the remaster or this one, whichever one you have your hands on. I think either one is honestly just as good. You also get different visors in this game. I think X-ray is one of them, and that helps you, obviously navigate certain obstacles. I think it was also interesting how they dealt with the doors in this game, because it was in a 2D environment. You really weren't sure what they looked like, but seeing it adapted here is really interesting. And it's really cool because I remember, just the feeling of when this game came out, it's the kind of time frame. It was very exciting, that kind of era, because I remember there were lots of demos of Metroid Prime. Like, they were very proud of how it looks and how it was made. And the fact that it came out at a time when Nintendo was really beginning to hit their stride, and you kind of felt like this new chapter where, again, a lot of games are going to 3D, and this was one of the big ones that really, really, started shining as an example of what a really good 3D game was. And you had this whole sort of, technical, graphical aspect, and the fact that technology was advancing so fast that we could even get graphics like this. And so the whole atmosphere around the game was just very exciting, and it's something I still kind of reminisce about to this day. Something else that also really struck me even about this game today, there's plenty of games about, first-person shooters of gruff guys, with wearing space armor helmets and stuff like this. But what is really interesting in Metroid Prime is that, Samus, she will run in front of, like a steam vent or something, or there'll be a huge explosion and, your visor will clog up, or you'll see your own reflection in the aftermath of the explosion. Or I think what everyone remembers is you walk off your ship on Talon 4 and you see there are rain droplets actually hitting your visor. And I think if you stay there long enough, it'll be like a little mini windshield wiper or something that takes them off. So the amount of immersion that this game has, I think, is really what people remember it for, is that you really feel like you're in this alien environment. And it's all those little kind of things that people have added, like, oh, well, how would Samus react in this situation? And it's a lot easier, I think, to draw from a series that you've been doing in 2D for a while than to kind of start from scratch. So there's a whole list of actions and sort of character tropes that this character basically is taking, but you can now fully kind of realize that. And so, again, I felt like a lot of games in the early days of moving to 3D, they really had this essence of essentially, the artist's vision was always limited by the technology. And there are pros and cons to that. I think there's more pros. But, it's now that we have this technology to make this 3D space, it's kind of like that creative energy moving as a, I don't know, as a storm or a typhoon or something, finally was reaching its peak limits, and now suddenly, you know, the bars are off. Suddenly, these people who were restricted to 2D planes and, you know, very limited, you know, musical arrangements suddenly had a huge array of tools at their disposal to almost make anything what they wanted, but still in the constraints of the technology itself. And it made for some extremely interesting interpretations and projects, and Metroid Prime being one of them, where you can tell the passion and the vision of what this game was, or what the artist wanted the game to be, was being almost fully realized in this expansion. And you know, as time goes on, and you know, we kind of get to the end of the Prime life cycle, at the end of Prime 3, it's kind of like, okay, where do we go from here? And I feel that's where a lot of series kind of lose their step. They make a really bad game that alienates the fans, and it's really sad it only takes one game to really do that. But it wouldn't be for a while till you have at least a few iterations of the same idea. You know, Metroid Prime 2 and 3 basically use the same kind of story beats and design beats and whatever, until it gets kind of stale to the point where players, you know, wouldn't really be happy with the same thing over and over again. So a lot of people, a series either, you know, die or they innovate. And I think the one series I can really think of that did that with Nintendo was Legend of Zelda, where they were like, okay, we can't just keep doing Zelda games, or at least that's what they thought, and they reinvented the formula to open world. It makes me scared to think about an open world Metroid game, because if Nintendo did make a new Metroid game today, undoubtedly that's what they would do. They would have to redo the entire formula. I don't know if they just copy Breath of the Wild, since apparently everyone else is fine with copying it, but yeah. Open world Metroid, that'd be interesting. But this one itself is really, really nice, and what I think is nice about it is the environments are relatively small. You know, you kind of go into these small kind of rooms. You know that there's a certain puzzle or something to scan, or something that's always hidden. Finding all the hidden little things in this game were always a ton of fun. And of course, the environments are very, very cool. They're very interesting. They have a lot of, obviously, enemy variety. And yeah, like it treats it like a very serious sci-fi kind of setting, where it's not just a bunch of like crazy aliens, but like a lot of flora and fauna, and even things you don't even, you know, fight or interact with. You know, you can scan them and read about them, and it's done in a very kind of scientific kind of setting where you feel like you're actually kind of learning. You know, like what a bestiary or something equivalent to that would be. And of course, this is the first game of the series where, again, it was very confusing to me because I played Prime first before Super Metroid, and in order to get the final cutscene where Samus reveals, you know, she's a woman, you actually have to basically speedrun Super Metroid, which I thought was just absolutely crazy because, you know, the pacing of Metroid games is not about doing it fast at all. It's about, you know, getting 100% completion. And sure enough, in this game, when you do 100% completion, you get the extra cutscene. But yeah, no, some people have said this is the best game ever. It's still very good. And, you know, knowing that opinion is out there can give you an idea of what this game, what the standards of this game are like. Especially for the time, it was very advanced and still is very advanced. And it's still a joy to play. You know, you feel, I don't know, very smart figuring out all the puzzles, you know, being able to backtrack, take note of where certain things are, and, you know, fully completing everything, and, you know, paves the way for the rest of this great series. Anyway, I think that's all I can really say about Metroid Prime right now. Definitely still a classic. I definitely, you know, pick it up and try it. And if you haven't played the remake, you know, now's, I think, a great time to get into it. Anyway, with that all said, guys, I will see you later. Bye.